Well, the time is just gone 16 minutes to 5 p.m. on the Iftar Drive this afternoon with myself, Inayat Wadi. We will be with you right until the time of Iftar in Johannesburg. Now, still to come on the show shortly, we will be joined by Aziza Vawda, who is a partnership and philanthropy officer with the UNHCR. And also at 5 o'clock, we'll be talking with Naren Ganesh, raising the questions with regards to the number of police officers that have been deployed in the courts, and this comes against the Tabo Besta saga. A huge question marks there being asked. Sophia Musa in our humanitarian segment this afternoon at around 5:30. She is from Spiritual Courts, and our Nasiha this evening was Maulana Abdul Khalik Ali, the president of the United Ulama Council of South Africa. But right now, we are taking a look at the aftermath of the tragic earthquakes in both Turkey and in Syria. And we know the extent of the damage, the aftermath, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of time to sort the problem out. But at this point in time, it is the month of Ramadan. And I'm sure that many, many people are in need. And that's why we're going across now to be joined by Aziza Vawda. Aziza, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I trust you're having a wonderful Ramadan, inshallah, Aziza.
Alhamdulillah.
That's wonderful. Right, Aziza, we knew with the devastating earthquakes both in Turkey and Syria, we knew it was going to be a long haul, and it will take a long time. It's going to take years and years to get to where back to normal, I would say, for want of a better term. But at this point in time, the need is still dire. It is absolutely critical. It is the month of Ramadan, and we know these earthquakes took place not long before the month of Ramadan, and we all expected it to be a very, very difficult Ramadan indeed for all the victims of the earthquakes in both countries.
Yeah, so I think first of all, we'd really like to say that UNHCR is deeply saddened to see the tragic aftermath of the deadly earthquakes. We offer our condolences to those who have lost their family and loved ones, and continue to stand with Turkey and Syria and the wider region at this difficult time. According to authorities at this stage, there are over 53,000 people who have lost their lives and tens of thousands more who have been injured. Homes and public infrastructure, as we would have all seen on the news, including roads, have also been severely damaged, with buildings that have collapsed. In Turkey, which already hosts the largest refugee population in the world, the earthquakes impacted a region of more than 15 million people. And among those affected inside Syria, particularly in the northwest region, are families that were already forcibly displaced from their homes by the country's 12-year-long running conflict. So they are living in tents, flimsy shelters, and partially destroyed buildings. And because the earthquake has struck, the country that's already facing one of the most complex humanitarian situations in the world, and it's just added to the dire humanitarian crisis which is already existing in the region. Of course, this is also all happening during the middle of one of the harshest winters in recent years, which is just exacerbating the needs and further impacting those affected. So while it has also been weeks since the earthquakes have occurred, the path of devastation it has left behind needs a great amount of support. So our hope is that in these last 10 days of Ramadan, we can help rebuild more lives by mobilizing more funds and more support.
Well, certainly. And also, when one looks at the reaction of the entire world, we've seen many organizations, many NGOs that went in immediately after the earthquake had hit. And I'm sure that there is still some work is being done to provide the some relief. But the magnitude of the earthquake, the massive numbers that you speak about millions of people, Aziza, and to
Mm,
get to reach each and every one is challenging. And also at the same time, like we mentioned, it is the month of Ramadan. It is,
Mm.
and in both the countries, they are observing the holiest time of the year. They are observing this month of Ramadan, and I shudder to think actually, what these people are actually going through.
Mm. Mm. It's yeah, it is really quite devastating. And just as you had mentioned about many other organizations on the ground who have and especially even from South Africa that have gone to assist. It's really been amazing to see the amazing amount of solidarity and support that has been coming from the global community. UNHCR is on the ground in the regions most affected by the earthquakes, and our teams have been working around the clock with our partners to support those who have been forced to flee their homes. The teams that are present in Turkey and Syria have been scaling up efforts to respond where needed. And of course, when we hear, 15 million people, we kind of sometimes it can put us off, or some people can say, well, I mean, what is, there are too many people, there's 15 million people, that's too much for me to even comprehend. But I think, if we bring it down to the fact that these are not numbers, they're actually people, the question we should be asking ourselves is, how many people can I help? Even if you can help just one person, that makes a massive difference. So, from the organization's efforts at the moment to date, we have distributed 110,000 relief items to affected families, including winter jackets and winter clothing kits. And in Syria, we are distributing emergency supplies together with our partners, including high thermal blankets, mattresses, and other life-saving aid, which has reached over 48,000 people. In Turkey, the United Nations and its agencies are continuing to mobilize emergency teams and relief operations and provide emergency relief, food, medical supplies, thermal blankets, and other life-saving items. And to date, around 34,000 tents have been distributed by UNHCR to the Turkish authorities, and more than 44,000 people have received core relief items. There are still, however, thousands of survivors who are still struggling and in need of food, shelter, and life-saving aid, and we all have a role to play. So also, as mentioned before, one of the most severe winter storms in recent years has also swept through the region. So many of those families who were already living in those flimsy shelters and damaged buildings have now, experienced, structures that are totally destroyed or weakened by the earthquake. So they're even more vulnerable. And so families now, in addition to the challenges that they are already having, and now even more so during the month of Ramadan, are in more urgent need of protection from those icy winds, the snow, and the rain as well.
Yes, and also, Aziza, there is an entire process to follow, because initially, when the earthquake had hit here, it was the immediate need was search and rescue, and
Mm.
with the buildings that have collapsed, and to try and find as many people alive as possible. And I suppose, now that that process is over, it's now taking it to the next level. It's to the next stage.
Mm.
It's about housing the people, like you mentioned, possibly whether it's makeshift tents or whatever it is, but also at the same time, it's got to be an ongoing, sustainable operation until you get to a stage where things start getting back to normal. But it's going to be a process. We're in for a long haul, and
Mm.
this sustainable process in terms of making sure that people are sustained with food, with shelter, with medication, all of that is going to be a long-term project.
Mm. Yes, it is. And I think that's the situation when we usually have these kinds of emergencies. We have the emergency situation, whether it's an earthquake or, something like a natural disaster that has come from climate change, or whether it's conflict. People are fleeing and they need life-saving assistance. So UNHCR is the organization, the international or global organization that is mandated to care for and protect people who have been forced to flee. And essentially, our priority is to put people first. So, even if there's a lack of a political will, or, people are stuck in a situation where, there's all sorts of complexities going on that's affecting the country situation. Essentially, our role and, the core mandate of our, protection mandate is really to just to put people first. So you have the emergency stage, and then you're providing core relief items, the shelters, the tents, the kitchen cooking sets. But then you have the transition phase, and then you have a protracted situation. So even if you look at the situation in Syria, which has been ongoing for 12 years, and you will have those phases of assistance that are required. So maybe now the cameras are not there anymore, or not as much as they were before, and maybe the search and rescue part is mostly gone, but those people that we are caring for are going to be there for a long time. They've pretty much lost everything, whether it's the infrastructure or whether it's their documentation, their belongings, everything. That's going to take a while to address, and of course, we will be there to continue giving our support. And we also very grateful for the support, and that show of solidarity that people have been displaying. So during the month of Ramadan, as we witness the horrific effects of the natural disasters firsthand, we're really calling on anyone listening to the show to show or to further extend their solidarity with those whose lives have been turned upside down by the aftermath of the earthquakes. So, we'd really like to appeal during the blessed 10 days of the last 10 days of the holy month, to listeners, to say that, their donations, or your donations, can provide a lifeline to refugees and forcibly displaced families who are most in need. And it can really provide a beacon of hope for millions who are celebrating Ramadan away from their homes and their homeland. So I think, what we had said is, in terms of the numbers, they do seem massive. We're talking about millions. But if we break it down to, the number of people that you can assist, it's just as an example, for only 150 Rand, you can provide a food pack for 3 people affected by the earthquakes. And so we, would like to, break it down like that, to say that, how many people can you assist in that way. And it's not only during Ramadan, because of course this is going to be a difficult month for people, whether it's, the prayers that they, where are they going to perform their prayers, or where are they, going to get their next meal. But, in the longer term, it's also about how do they rebuild their lives. So essentially, we are, giving people an opportunity and asking for them to extend their generosity by, donating their sadaqah via the Ramadan campaign website, which is on you can find it via donate.unhcr.org/Ramadan ZA.
Well, certainly, and you mentioned the last 10 days, but we know those 10 days have actually flown, and we're into the last 4 days of the month of Ramadan. So we have 4 days to basically maximize, because there are huge benefits in donating and discharging of our sadaqah or zakah or any other form of charity. So all of that, and we've got basically 4 days to cash in big time, to make a difference and to help the victims and the survivors of the earthquakes in both Turkey and in Syria as well. Aziza, once again, I just want to repeat, it's donate.unhcr.org/Ramadan ZA. Ramadan with DAN, with ZA. So we trust and hope that people take heed to this call this afternoon right here on the Iftar Drive, and let us maximize. Let us remember, Ramadan is more than just a month of fasting and abstention from food and drink, and spiritually on a physical, on a personal level, but it's also about touching humanity and making a difference in the lives of others. So all the best to you, Aziza. Once again, we say Jazakallah, shukran to you for coming on and for this interview this afternoon right here on the Iftar Drive.
Okay.
Assalamu
Jazakallah.
alaikum. Aziza Vawda was us this afternoon and making this appeal. And let us not forget, because we will be in the next few days, we will be close to the day of Eid in about 4 days' time, and was amongst all the joy. And yes, rightly so, it is a happy day for all of us after having observed this month of Ramadan. But more importantly, let us also look at those that don't have. So sometimes, if we are intending to overindulge, let's just set aside a little bit for those who will not be having an Eid like the one that we will be enjoying and experiencing. So once again, donate.unhcr.org/Ramadan ZA. Every little bit helps. The time is just gone 5 p.m. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We'll be joined by Naren Ganesh.